I keep running to the time we had.
So, what brought you to the ketamine to begin with?
Well, first I want to say it was an awful experience.
It was an awful experience.
Well, for me, ketamine, I never really did a lot of drugs or
Mm.
anything like that. I was up in Malibu. You want me to
Okay.
look at the camera? Or you
No,
look
no.
at you? No, I was up in Malibu. I was working on a film for John Lilly. John
Okay.
Lilly's a dolphin guy, and he invented the isolation tank. After inventing the isolation tank, someone said to him, "Oh, you should meet these beings that float around all day." And then he got involved with dolphins. So the big bulk of his work was understanding the behavior of dolphins, trying to teach them a language and an English language, which is a little silly since they admit 4 sounds at once. But he did lots of interesting experiments with dolphins. The whole movie Day of the Dolphin was about his work that George C. Scott was in. So anyway, then I think after he got involved with dolphins, I don't know the exact history, then he started to get involved with drugs, and ketamine I think was one of his drugs of choice. And you know, he would do, I was listening to, like I was up there putting together his archives. I was editing a video for him about, or re-editing a video that was already out called the Emerging Love, Dolphin and Human. Because dolphins really are human. Delphi, dolphin, brother. I think it goes back to the Greek word for womb. So dolphins in a sense are as intelligent as human beings. Probably more intelligent because all they do all day is float around and eat and have sex. You know, that's basically their day.
When they live a pleasurable life, that's probably more intelligent than humans
who think they have to do something.
add a lot of stress to life.
Yeah, and they're quite, if you've ever looked a dolphin in the eye, it's not like looking a dog in the eye. It's like when you look at a dog and you can see, well, they're sort of intelligent, but not quite.
I saw this fabulous documentary when they put up a mirror in a dolphin's tank, and they left it there, and just after a few minutes the dolphins started to interact with the mirror, and they acted so peculiar when they looked at this mirror. They were really sort of checking themselves out. And one thing in particular, the humans marked this black cross on the dolphin, and as soon as the dolphin was let back in the water, it went straight to the mirror and it looked where the person had marked this black
You see,
cross
that's
on
the
them.
difference between, I think, apes and chimps. Don't necessarily, they think they're looking at another chimp.
They don't recognize it as themselves.
They don't, but to be sentient, I mean, I think there's a difference between children of 2 and 3 that realize there's a mirror. There's an awareness of sentience, and that is what makes for a kind of spiritual component. The idea of self-awareness, self-consciousness, and that's what dolphins have that dogs don't have, or cats, or most animals. But dolphins, being as evolved as human beings on an intellectual and spiritual level, have this sentience of consciousness. And so do whales. Oh my God, if you look in the eye of a whale, they will just sense everything about you. Their field is so big. So John Lilly started something called the Cetacean Nation, where he was really into protecting dolphins themselves and whales as a kind of nation on planet Earth, you know, their own nation. But anyway, when he was not doing that kind of stuff, he was going to get involved in experimenting with consciousness. And he was a great explorer of consciousness, you know, sort of coming to age, not coming to age, but coming into prominence in the 60s with such great psychedelic psychonauts as
Was most
Timothy
of
Leary.
his conscious exploration involved with chemicals and psychedelics, or was it?
I don't know. I'm sure it was involved with other things besides just chemicals, I'm sure. But he kind of, I think, and I don't know really, I have to talk to his secretary who got me involved in all that, Barbara Lilly, about what his main thing was. But he started to do ketamine because it is like floating. It is like moving. It's like you are being swirled around in a whirlpool. And that was the thing that got me. So I was working for him, sort of his organization, and him putting together this little compilation video, because I had met his secretary, Barbara Clark Lilly. And I was hanging out at the house there, and I was eating I remember eating salsa and chips, and not knowing anything was going to happen. And then some people arrived, they all went into John's bedroom, and then they called me in at the last minute. They said, "Psst, kid, do you want to do this journey?" I had no idea what they were talking. I think they were calling it vitamin K.
Right.
I said, "Sure." I mean,
It's kind of a peer pressure situation.
no, I didn't even know. I thought, "Oh, this could be fun." And then I didn't know anything. I thought, "Oh, maybe you drink it or maybe you smoke it." But after when I said yes, then immediately there was a needle in my arm shooting me up with this chemical. It was like,
Oh,
really? It's like, that was a surprise. I mean, not that I guess maybe there was a few moments of hesitation, but somehow it all happened so fast. I wasn't really prepared for it. So I knew John's secretary. So there were about 6 people in the room. And John was laying on his bed, because it was really for him entering the dolphin kingdom, because everything starts swirling. So I'm laying on the bed next to John's secretary, Barbara Clark, and she says, "Oh, let's take off our clothes. It'll be great to have sex on ketamine." I said, "Okay, let's do that." And then, we're laying there, and then suddenly this thing hits, and the room starts swirling around, just starts spinning, I mean, I think I probably had too much. I think it was 100 cc's. I think it was just ridiculous to do that much. I mean, I had no idea. I would have started in small doses, but these were sort of it was sort of like going from the little leagues to the major leagues, and boom. So it's we're not only not, we're not doing anything, we're hardly moving. Me and Barbara, we're just laying there, like this, because the world is spinning around us. And then she turns to me and says, "It's very Einsteinian, isn't it?" Meaning that I guess consciousness and energy and matter just are merging together. So it's everything's spinning, and we're floating in a sea. It's sort of being on a train wreck together. We're all just floating, and someone's shouting, "Did you see the portal? The portal's there." It's I guess, we're all kind of spinning around. It felt like the whole room was spinning. And then in the middle of the spinning, the chips and salsa start to get to me. And it's I'm feeling totally nauseous from the spinning sensation. And besides not moving, I said, "Oh my God, I'm going to be sick, and I can't get up and move and throw up even." So I didn't know how I was going to throw up, because I knew I had to throw up, because this thing was just spinning everything. So then I actually remembered reading something in a Castaneda book where you use your intent from your navel, and you will yourself up. It's not you think about getting stuff, you will yourself up. So I just knew I had to get up to throw up. And I just remembered that, and somehow even in the spinning and not being able to move and being totally dizzy and laying just really plastered to the bed, I got up. I willed myself up from my midsection and went outside and threw up all the salsa and chips over the side of the veranda there, and then went back to the bed and just lay down and passed out. It took a long time for that whole effect. It's really kind of, I guess it's like a horse tranquilizer or something. I don't know why anyone would do that for recreation.
Yeah, I mean, this is what it's originally intended for.
Yeah, I never wanted to do that again. So it actually took a long time. Well, it didn't take that long to come down from that initial thing, but it took a long time to regain my sense of self, my sense of awareness and psyche. I felt like I was totally drained from having that experience, because it was just so disorientating. But I guess John really liked it because it made him feel like a dolphin, or it does make you feel like you're floating. But for me, it was awful. It was not a pleasant
I was trying to imagine
experience.
What would be the benefits of going through.
Well, you do lose a body-ego relationship. I think I probably did too. But, I don't really like disconnecting body-ego consciousness. I think we're here to be in unity of all that.
Sure, bring the two together.
Yeah, we're not here to disconnect. I mean, you have forever to disconnect. We're here to be embodied. Everyone wants to be enlightened, but we're here to be embodied,
Yeah, I do think it's always important, when you have these experiences, it's always very important to bring it down and come back into
Well, the body is a key element. It's not just consciousness. Everyone's talking about consciousness. Unless you can ground awareness into physicality, there's no point in having an expanded consciousness.
Exactly.
I mean, you don't need a body to have an expanded consciousness, but we have a body, and the body is the vehicle for receiving the divinity on planet Earth.
And so you can manifest it within this reality as well.
Yeah, this reality is the key. We don't need drugs to realize what this reality is. Actually, I think those experiences take people away from being human, and we're here to be human beings, the ability to feel and relate to each other in a physical, emotional way. That's why we incarnated. We didn't incarnate to be consciousness. We're already consciousness.
Yeah.
We're incarnated to give experience to flesh, to feeling, to emotional capacities. So it took me actually a few years to really, I think, actually recover from that ketamine experience. I remember being very displaced. I went to Hawaii after that and just sort of lived in the jungles and kind of grounded at Haleakua, at this place called the House of the Divine, Haleakua in Walo. Just kind of collected myself again, and I think I was also completing my father's business. This was 1989. So I didn't really do anything, although I did do ecstasy. I think I did that in like 80, when did I do? I must have done that in 85, 86. No, before.
Okay.
Yeah, in 86, and that was a great experience. Like, boom, my pituitary psychic third eye just opened and stayed open, I don't think we need a drug to do that, but it happened like, boom. It was a vehicle for opening up another center of awareness, and that sort of has stayed with me in a way. But then this ketamine thing really took me down.
How did you go through the process of collecting yourself back after that experience?
Well, yeah, I was in the nature. I was in nature a lot. It was in Hawaii. I lived in like the jungles, ate a lot of papaya off of the fruit trees there. I was really taken. I really went to stay at this beautiful place called Haleakua, which was like right there in the Maui jungle sort of, and there were fresh fruits everywhere. So being in nature, walking barefoot for like 6 months, not wearing any clothes, just being like breathing air, swimming in the ocean, those are all ways that helped me collect. I actually had to go back to the place that I did the ketamine in California, and actually do a recapitulation of the experience. If you read Carlos Castaneda books, he says to recapitulate intense experiences, because in each intense experience you sort of lose a part of your consciousness, you gain other things. So through the process of recapitulation, you regain what you may have lost in a certain experience, or even with a certain person. Castaneda says you have to recapitulate your whole life. Recapitulate all your drug experience, recapitulate all your sexual experience, recapitulate all the intense experience, so you pull that wisdom into your body, and you recapitulate by blowing out what that experience has left in you and breathing in what you have lost of yourself. So it's best to actually go back to the places where you've had these intense experiences. So I went back to that place in Malibu. I recapitulated the experience. I did through a series of breathing processes. I sort of relived the experience, and what I felt like I lost, I actually breathed back into me. And I knew something was happening, because I think during that ketamine experience it was like a sound of a plane overhead or something, a sound of a low plane. And then when I did the recapitulation, I heard that sound again. There was actually this sequence of events came back, so it was kind of a confirmation that I was recapitulating. I mean, I wasn't making it up. It was actually another plane going overhead. So it was like that sound again was a confirmation of a kind of completion of the recapitulation that helped kind of gain my wholeness. Because I think drugs in general deplete our wholeness. You know, what Castaneda says, it kind of flattens the energy that's around you. It makes you less receptive to energetic awarenesses. And so we're here to enthuse our energetic awarenesses of reality on all levels of consciousness. So in actuality, Don Juan, Castaneda's teacher, only gave him peyote because he was so stuck in his mechanistic view that the peyote kind of snapped him out of that one way of seeing the world. And there's many ways of seeing reality. So Don Juan says, and if you read the first two books, it's about his peyote experiences, but the third book in the Castaneda series, Journey to Ixtlan, is really about, it wasn't about the peyote, it was about the spiritual awakening that the peyote was a vehicle for. You know, it's like pointing to the moon, the finger that's pointing to the moon.
Sure.
It's
just really the beginning, just to sort of open the path for you, to give you an idea of where to go from that point. But like you said, not to rely on it as a crutch.
Not to rely on it at all, because all the awarenesses, when you snap out of this cultural conditioning that we've been programmed to live in, then you realize there's a huge reality. I think that's what LSD was, why it was so important in the 60s. The 60s was a cultural revolution on all levels, in music, of course, but also in theater, intellectual thought, in art. All across the board, the 1960s was a revolution in new awarenesses, new awakenings,
new
and
possibilities.
Yes, in every field. And I don't think it was just because of LSD, but LSD was a sort of propeller that opened a door. But it was happening. It was also in the collective zeitgeist of the time, this new emergence. So that was already an opening of the door. And actually, the Castaneda work was very much a part of the 60s awakening. You know, he was probably one of the best-selling authors in the 1960s, but it wasn't about peyote. It was about the spiritual awakenings. The roots of the current spiritual awakening really confined themselves in the 1960s, when the Beatles went to India and they met Maharishi. They brought meditation back. It's like it was all like boom. There was like something else within our consciousness. So anyway, so I experimented a little bit, but I also realized that I really do have it all in me, you know. It's like all the chemicals I ever needed to expand my awareness are not in any substance I would take. But I have to say, when I did do the ayahuasca, it was in a loft in downtown Manhattan.
Right. So it wasn't in any jungle environment?
No, it wasn't in any jungle environment. It was part of the Daime work.
Oh, I see.
And, you know, they sing. I mean, it's quite limiting, I think, the Daime. Of course, some people have great experiences, but they kind of try to move this expanded experience within to like some kind of Christian framework.
That's right.
And so I drank the stuff. It didn't make me throw. It wasn't bad. It was 2 cups of.
Was this your first time?
Yes, the first time I did ayahuasca.
I have heard, well, from my own experience as well, the first time it was delightfully easy to drink it. And it seems to get harder and harder to drink the more you drink it, because your consciousness knows that the great difficult ordeal you're about to go through, and it makes it
I don't know if it's a difficult ordeal. It may be for some people. Maybe I was through the difficult ordeal with the ketamine experience. But the ayahuasca was very easy. It felt very clear right after taking it. And then I remember they were starting to sing those songs, and I just knew I had to get away from that. So I really went into my own inner journey and had a really joyful time. I felt like really bliss like coursing through my body and being able to really tune into anybody I was thinking of. I went into these great yoga positions where I felt really flexible in my body and very, very clear in some ways, you know. I did it 2 days in a row, like fasting for 2 days, and the second day was more intense, but the first day was really where the joy. The second day was a little more draining. I felt a little drained from not sleeping and just doing this stuff. So when I came out of those experiences, even though I had a great time, I felt drained. I felt like my serotonin was zapped. I felt also, even though I was having this like really euphoric experience, I felt like it was sort of like a false ceiling. Like I was looking at the stars, but the stars were painted on a glass ceiling. Like I wasn't really looking at heaven. I mean, it was, or the total bliss of what we were capable of.
It's giving you a glimpse into it. Almost.
No, it's giving me a false reality. I felt the ayahuasca, maybe being, or whatever you want to call that, gives you the illusion of fulfillment, but not the actuality of it, because I think the only way to actually have the gift of that kind of joy is to have it be maintained in the body. If you're brought up and brought down, then in a way it's illusionary, and I think that's why people do it again and again, because they love that experience.
They want to be reconnected to it.
They want
and
to be
not within them.
Yeah, they want to be reconnected to it, and it's not essentially within them. Of course it's within them if they've had that experience, but I realized I don't want anything to get me there. Okay, it shows you a window, it shows you what's possible, and that's a great gift in a way, but if you keep relying on a crutch, you never learn to walk. Or if they call it medicine, well, you need medicine if you're not well, but if you keep taking medicine, then it becomes a dependence on the medicine, and the medicine takes over and becomes a kind of psychic addiction, I feel. So it's great to wake people up, especially people who are really unconscious on any level, that anything beyond their limited vision can exist, because it does take you into these realms that are way. I mean, I remember I was on the ayahuasca, I closed my eyes and I saw this, looked like an African medicine man, very distinct features, had glasses on, and then I closed my eyes, and then I opened it and he was gone, and closed it, he was closer, you know, and then I opened it and then he was sort of like right there, and was sort of, I don't know what we're kind of doing together, but it was friendly, it was infusing me with something. But you know, ultimately Castaneda says it's the realm of the inorganic beings, and the inorganic beings are allies, if you could use them as allies, but they want you also inhabit their world. They can take over your consciousness. So
they have their own intentions.
They have their own intentions for you to inhabit their world, instead of you using the medicine as a way to maneuver in the world. Most people that I've seen do it over and over again and get stuck in that world where they're paying tribute to the beings, these inorganic beings, or the ayahuasca, and they're not living their life. We're here to live our life in this world, in this ordinary reality, mundane, ordinary, boring, day-to-day reality, and find joy and awakening in that. If you can't find it there, then if you do, then it's an escape if you're taking something else. It is here. The joy is here in this moment. The fullness of embodied incarnational existence is in this moment, and it's full when you wake up to that. So you use it as a medicine to kind of springboard yourself here, but if you keep, you know, doing that, then you forget the reality that's here, and you get stuck in something else. I think that's my opinion.
Yeah.
People can do whatever they want.
No, I heard part of the new process is to awaken within this reality.
That's the old process. That's actually the only process. It's not a new process. Okay. It's the original process. I mean, there are assistances, but the awakening in this reality That's why we've come in, to expand consciousness in form, not with anything else. You can expand it in form when you get over your habitual thinking, when you're really, really present. When you're not thinking, life rushes in. It's like you create a vacuum when there's no thought. And what rushes in is existence. And that's what we've incarnated for.
The very force of life.
The very force and essence of beingness itself is what we are when we stop the thoughts and we stop the kind of generation of seeking. And I don't think you can do that on ayahuasca. It takes you to a place, but you know, the higher up it brings you, the further it drops you, you know. And, you know, that's hard when you hit the ground when you're that high. So it's like, it's okay, it's great if people want to do that, but there's a bigger experience waiting for you to happen. And that's right here.
Did you do ayahuasca again?
I did do it again, actually, just recently, and I felt like it really took me down. I did like a little sip in this, like, in Hawaii, and I felt like, you know, I don't really need to do this anymore. It just, like, gave me a headache. It was like, you know, and maybe it would be great if I did it again in the jungle. I'm not saying no, but I don't feel like I really want to or need to or have to. Perhaps I would, though, but it's something really exciting about just being and having everything rush in. You know, I'm reading a lot of different stories about near-death experiences, and it's like, wow, you have this sense of consciousness and awareness, and that's who we always are, you know? People say, is there a life after the body? Well, Edgar Cayce said, it's really in reverse, he says, how much of that expanded awareness do we actually have in the body? It's not like, is there consciousness after you leave the body? It's like, no, it's how much consciousness is actually in the body, and we're actually in the body to have that expanded consciousness. And we have those same chemicals in our brain that is simulated by all those substances, because the only way they can work is attaching to receptor sites that get activated for us to perceive those types of realities. Right? You've heard about cannabinoids, they mirror, and morphine substances. You know, they all mirror our own
what's already there.
What's already there, so we can actually generate those chemicals through meditation. You want to feel really good? Meditate. I just met a woman who was in a dark room, total dark, for 40 days with no food, no water, sitting up, and she was gone. She said this whole thing just opens up right in front of her. That's just her own chemical, and we all have that. We all have our own chemicals. So the challenge is to do it here. You know, I was thinking about this thing that John Kennedy said, President Kennedy, when he said he wanted to put a man on the moon.
Not because it's easy, but because
it's hard. He said, we do it not because it's easy, but because it's hard. And that, you do it, you want those experiences, it's easy to have the expanded experiences on ayahuasca. I mean, it's designed for that. But you could do it here, not because it's easy, because it's hard. And when it's hard like that, when you go through that, it stays. Do you want to live in an expanded state?
Of course. Isn't like the fact that it's hard and trying to do it kind of against the idea that it just always is?
Yeah, you don't have to try to do anything.
Yeah,
it's
it
here.
Already is. And
look at
to say it's hard is
look
like
at a newborn baby. They're sort of in bliss when they're not crying, but they're totally in the moment. They're crying, they're laughing, they're screaming, they're playing. They're in that state, you know. Jesus said, you know, you have to become like a little child to enter the kingdom of heaven. Well, that's the kingdom of heaven.
Love.
But you have to become as a little child to enter the kingdom of heaven. We are living in the kingdom of heaven, but we don't realize it because we're not in that child's state. We're here to live in the kingdom of heaven, the expanded bliss. It's right here.
Okay.
Wait, can you stay there without thinking?
Can I just be present?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
No, you did it.
Yeah.
It's just when you say you think so, it's like that's where your mind came in. But do you catch the moment you're present? Do you catch the moment?
Very much now.
You know how you can tell? If you look at me,
It's it's when I'm not attaching thoughts to things, it's just when I'm aware of everything that is right now in this room, not just within my own body.
right.
It's
And I
really
can
big.
see that. You know where I see it?
No, where do you see it?
Well, should I look at... actually, a light flashes in your eyes.
Maybe.
But yes. When I look at you and I see that flash of boom, it's reflected back in me. I can only see it because I'm reflecting back that in you. We're reflecting the infinite mirror thing. It's boom. Yeah. But forget all the things Buddha said. Forget all the things everybody said, because there's only what you say.
So what is true is what you're feeling.
It's only feeling. What is true is only what's being felt. I mean, I'm not there all the time, obviously. I'm thinking and talking and writing and reading and taking in ideas. And
It's kind of impossible to be there all the time.
but not
also,
really.
right?
No. I'll give you a book of somebody who is... I'll show you. I'll give you a book. No. The idea is to be there all the time.
I mean, as much as possible, but
I
All the
mean,
time.
all the time.
I think you can. Why not? I don't know. I mean, I haven't experienced it all the time, but we have it more than we think we do. So some people say, especially in the later Castaneda books, they say this idea of this thinking mind was a entity that took over human awareness and is using us to give existence to this thinking thing that's not really us. Who we are is this moment-to-moment present being.
Yeah, and it tricks us to make it think it is us.
Of course. You think your thoughts are you.
Exactly.
That's why the Buddhists say thoughts without a thinker, you know? We're the watcher of the thoughts.
The
not
observer.
where we can watch our thoughts. If we were our thoughts, we wouldn't be able to watch what we are, but because we are not the thinker of the thoughts, we're the observer, we can watch the thoughts like a radio playing in the background. Because we're something bigger. I mean, this is what I think all the Advaita, all the great masters have come to that understanding. And then you embody it. Because in Buddhism, I think it's a little mental, but in the... Did you say the idea is about being embodied now? Did you say?
Yeah, I mean, the real key is to embody these new energies within this current now moment,
Exactly.
not within any kind of...
Yeah. Can you do that?
I was about to say, I think so. Yeah.
Well, you're doing it.
Yeah.
You're doing it. Because you cannot not do it. You're doing it.
Yeah, I mean, it's always happening.
Yeah, when you're not thinking.
Yeah.
Existence is feeding you. That's what Eckhart Tolle says. You're not living life. Life is living you. He's quite a master. He really discovered that facility of awareness. He, I would say, is someone who's probably there all the time. I mean, just listening to him, just what he's tuned into energetically. And then I think the universe starts to expand and you start to realize there's more to existence. I think Jesus said, although I said not to quote, but there's Jesus in the Gospel of Thomas said, when you're really present, everything else is known. So everything is known, infused. You could know anything when you're present totally. Of course, when you're present, you're not thinking about anything, you're just present. So.
Yeah.
So, does that answer? So as far as ayahuasca, I think people are doing it actually too much. I mean, they could do whatever. I'm not telling people what to do, but it gives people such a euphoria or such an awakening that it becomes a sort of, I think, not a kind of detour on the path. You know, sometimes you need a detour to get around some blocks or over or through it. But if you keep taking the detour, you're not on your path.
You
And
need
it
to
might,
come back to the path after you've been past that.
yeah, yeah, but it's a path. Everything's a path, but your path is your day-to-day existence. How are you dealing with your own life, moment to moment? How are you dealing with your own emotions, your own consciousness? How are you putting back to help others? I mean, just simple things. That's, I think, there's more joy in that than, I don't know, doing things just for yourself. I mean, what can we do to help each other brings joy. It's a kind of collective joy that comes. I mean, that's just what I discovered. I'm also not telling people what to do, but I think you're doing this film because you sense that it's not just for you. Of course, you're doing it to find out sort of your path, but you don't need anything.
Myself.
You don't need anything.
No.
You don't even need to talk to people. I mean, it's okay, but you don't really need
But to share the experience with others is a great joy.
Yeah, share what experience?
Just the way we're sharing now.
Right.
Yeah.
Just you're a person, being.
Mm.
But I would say if you could just be more in that moment where the light came through your eyes,
Then that's all that matters.
that's all there is.
Yeah.
Try it.
I keep having it. It keeps coming back.
The distraction.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, because it's a habit.
Because you project. Right onto
But you're
it.
good, because you started to feel stuff as I looked at you, right? It's things, it's
Yeah,
like things
yeah.
start to change too.
And when you notice it as well, that gives me more fuel as well. to
Yeah,
really
it's
keep
witnessing.
going at it. Yeah.
That's right. When you witness, when you have that
It's like feeding off each other.
exactly the shared energy,
Yeah.
you were getting it. You were starting to like become undone,
Mm.
because the intellect wants to keep it all together, tidy it up, and put it into a box.
Okay.
It's good. You should probably get more at staring at someone for 3 weeks than doing an
yeah.
ayahuasca trip.
Actually would.
You think so? Try it.
I think so.
What about you?
I keep running to the